All right, and we're live. There's another exciting episode of This Hour Has 56 Minutes. This is your host, Raphael, and I'm joined live with the Angry Shark. Dan Man couldn't make it today, but the Angry Shark was more than happy to join me. How are you doing?
Good, great to be back. A pretty slow week, but there's always something happening, even though it's a slow week. It sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, it is pretty slow. Well, it was kind of actually a pretty exciting week. I mean, I saw that stuff that was happening at the border. People were just zerg rushing the border and then using tear gas. And people were going, "Why is Trump using tear gas? That's banned in war." It's like, which makes no sense to me. Why would they ban tear gas but let people shoot people up with bullets? I mean, tear gas never kills anybody. But hopefully, he's able to hold the ground. Maybe slow him down just enough. He's only doing like 100 a day, and it'll keep him in Mexico. And the Mexicans don't want them there. They'll probably get pissed off enough that they'll start kicking them out themselves. Maybe that's just 4D chess. I don't know. That's maybe I'm just hopeful.
Well, he's gonna have to act like, he lives another day, and he needs to stop listening to the shitty advice he gets from his advisors, and he needs to stop being afraid of getting impeached because he could get impeached whenever. So if I were Trump right now, just push for the wall funding. Say, hey, if you're not going to give us the funding for the wall, we're going to shut down the government. And there were, like Ann Coulter said, there were ways for him to fund the wall. He could have had a remittance tax, just say, okay, 90% of these earnings that are getting is any earnings that are sent overseas get slapped with a 90% tax, and that could help fund the wall. And then you have tariffs. That tariff money coming in that could also help fund the wall. And he's done some things like close the border, which is good, but he should have done this sooner. And we don't know if it's too late or not. But yeah, I was seeing the videos with like the tear gas, and it's all the barbed wiring and the fences, and I guess the Mexican government said the 500 people who tried to cross into the U.S. border illegally, of course, they got like contained back, are going to get deported.
Yeah, Mexico's deployed in 500. I heard probably like 500 to 1,000 people,
Something
and
like
that's
that.
pretty nice because Mexico will be able to deport them right away. They're not just going to go to some immigration judge for months on end and then probably like disappear and not show up to their court date. They'll literally just be kicked out of the country. So yeah, I have an article that you pointed out to me. It's kind of relates to this by Ann Coulter. Queen Anne's very based from when I used to be in high school. She was much more of a neocon, but now she's more of a populist. I really liked his new Anne.
Yeah, it's and not only that, but she's more based than Trump, and she's holding Trump accountable, and her Twitter posts are just great. And she pretty much told Gian Pirro, if you guys haven't listened to that clip from last week's TDS, or I think that was on Monday actually, of TDS, like she pretty much said Trump needs to stop making excuses and saying why he can't build a wall. What's stopping him from building the wall, closing the border, and deporting all these people, or even sending more troops down to the borders? Like send all the troops from the Middle East and in places in the world that they shouldn't even be in. Bring them all back and have them guard the borders. No more of this
Um,
making excuses.
See, I think this will actually get right Bart in hot water, but we'll see. They're treading pretty close. I bet you they're going to tread pretty close in this article. Exclusive. Ann Coulter, GOP at the point of extinction due to mass immigration. New York Times best-selling author and populist, conservative, columnist, and culture says the Republican Party is just at the point of extinction without a shot due to mass illegal and legal immigration to the country that continues importing more than 1.5 million immigrants a year. In an interview with SiriusXM Patriots Breitbart News Daily, Coulter told Breitbart News editor-in-chief Alex Marlow that the United States, due to mass immigration and rapid demographic shifts, will be electorally dominated by Democrats indefinitely in about 5 more years, calling Trump the last Republican president. And he's pretty much guaranteed to be the last Republican president if it isn't just the people trying to get in at the border. He needs to start deporting the illegal immigrants that are here right now.
Yep, he's got to end birthright citizenship, which he can do. He could even take it to the Supreme Court. I don't know if he's doing the 40 chess and waiting for Ginsburg to kick the bucket or Breyer to retire, even though those two aren't, even though they are in their 80s, and get in another Supreme Court justice. But it doesn't hurt. He needs to just take it to the Supreme Court. And even have it, he even said he was going to do an executive order on it, and it's still yet to be, I've yet to see it happen. It was all talk and no action. He needs to pass an executive order to end birthright citizenship. If the court strikes it down, say, okay, I'm going to take it to the Supreme Court and contest the birthright citizenship, the 14th Amendment. And hopefully they rule it unconstitutional.
Yeah, the Dominican Republic actually ended birthright citizenship a couple of years ago and deported about 300,000 Haitians, illegal Haitians in the country. And that was massive because they were facing huge pressure from the international community, especially at the UN, telling them how they need to just reverse their decisions, but they just went ahead, ended birthright citizenship, pretty much stripped citizenship away from people that got it illegally. So if you're a legal alien from Haiti and you had a child there, your kid would be a citizen. So they reversed that. They took back, not stole, they took back all the citizenship from the children of the illegal immigrants and they sent them back to Haiti.
Well, that's great, and they're smart too because you still got all those boomer terrorists or those white people who vacation in the Dominican Republic, and they know that it would hurt their tourism if a bunch of Haitians are running around causing ruckus and destroying the country. They pretty much told the Haitians like, get out of here. It's just like, just go. It's, we hate you. No wonder why everyone cannot stand you people.
Well, it's very important for the Dominican Republic because it can literally get overrun by Haiti. Dominican Republic can disappear and turn into Haiti within a few years if they let them in, because the birth rate of Haitians is so extremely high compared to the average Dominican.
It's just part of their high time preference. They have kids even though they live dirt poor, but they still pop out 8 to 9 children.
So it's pretty cool. They also have the a nationalist party that's in charge of the Dominican Republic right now too. So things are looking pretty good for that country so far. And if their immigration policy wasn't so bad, I probably would be able to move back. But they want you to have a bachelor's degree. You got to speak the language fluently. You can't just show up and immigrate.
Who's the president?
They don't really accept. Huh?
Oh, I was just gonna say, who's the president? Is it Danilo Medina?
I'm not sure who the current president is. I'm gonna have to look him up later. But I know the current president actually spent most of his life growing up in New York City, and then he goes back to the Dominican Republic, starts stripping citizenship away from Haiti, starts sending them back to Haiti, and you have the the mayor of New York City. I forgot his name, but he was criticizing the Dominican Republic big time, and the Dominicans were booing him at the parade.
Was it Bill De Blasio or was this
Yeah, Bill
earlier?
de Blasio.
Oh God, everyone
That's his
hates him,
name.
and he gets reelected because he's got a lot of kosher money stacking up his pockets.
Yeah, and Jewish people make up like a significant amount of New York City, and their votes can get somebody in office there.
I mean, he made Bloomberg look like some blue dog Democrat. That's how crazy. That's how awful De Blasio is.
Yeah, and then you have not only her, yeah, what's that other girl? Ocasio Cortez got elected too. She's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
her bug eyes. She looks like she has Graves' disease, and for those morons who say who she's hot and sexy, it's like, oh my god, it's
No,
no,
she's
she's not.
not.
No, she's not. She. Have you seen her face? It's just like it's a butter face. It's a butter face, and she's not really bright. She just embarrasses our generation, the millennials. She makes the millennials look even worse than they already are portrayed. We are there with the boomers. That's how bad of a rap we get. And it's because of people like her.
Yeah. Well, continue on with the article. Coulter said, I have very little hope for the country. It's going to be bad. It's going to be Brazil first. We're about to lose Texas and Florida. Those elections were razor thin. And every day, more and more immigrants turn 18 and start voting, canceling out all of your votes. It's about 5 more years. Trump will be the last Republican president. While Coulter blasted Trump's record on immigration thus far, noting that a border wall still has not been built and the president has yet to sign an executive order ending the country's anchor baby policy. Before you continue on, she's totally right. The presidential election with Trump was very razor thin. I mean, it's because he got so much of the rural part of the country. Especially in Pennsylvania, you got so much of the rural part of Pennsylvania and some of the former blue states that he was able to win. And I believe Eric Stryker said that literally the viewer base of the Daily Stormer got him the victory of Ohio.
In those states, since they're heavily white, so they don't have to deal with the immigration or diversity problem yet. Well, I mean, they kind of do, but it's mostly in the urban areas. But a lot of these areas too, they vote for the candidate and not the party. So you have blue dog Democrats in these states, like especially in Montana, where they're like these white working class Democrats. So a lot of the people will vote for him because a lot of their economic views are populist. But Trump had some of those similar views. That's why they voted for Trump. They voted for him, not the Republican Party. So unless you ramp up more candidates out there that are exactly like Trump and his views and could get shit done, they're not going. They're going to have a hard time. Tax cuts isn't going to do it. Stop tax and spend isn't going to do it. Those are losing issues.
Well, I believe in the future, Republican Party is going to change because they're losing a lot of their kosher donors, fleeing the party and going to the Democrat Party. Essentially, only Sheldon Adelson is the last one standing.
Oh
And
God,
if
am I getting tired of him? He's trying to, he's trying to influence Trump to be more neocon, and that's why he's doing it.
Yeah, it's because he's super Zionist. The only issue he really cares about is wars for Israel and tax cuts, so he can send more money to Israel. He's a one issue type of guy. So
Which is ironic
if
because he doesn't live over there. It's like, bro, why don't you live your golden years over there? You and Bill Kristol and Jennifer Rubin, but that just makes too much sense, and we'd just be called anti-Semites if we say such a thing.
while Coulter blasted Trump's record on immigration thus far, noting that a border wall still has not been built, The president had yet to sign an executive order ending the country's anchor baby policy. She also took a shot at idiot Republicans who have yet to acknowledge the immigration crisis facing the nation. They've been bragging about, ha ha ha, we've changed the demographics. And idiot Republicans are running around arguing about the import export bank or even abortion. Look, abortion is important, but you lose everything conservative. Whatever you think is the most important issue, gun rights, abortion, anything the Supreme Court does, anything the Congress does. If you have another Republican president, nor might I add another Republican Senate or House, I mean the demographics that changed have already flipped California, are about to flip Texas and Florida and various other states, smaller states, were just at the point of extinction without a shot. All of our votes are being canceled out by immigrants, 80% of whom vote for the Democrats.
Where's the lie?
Yeah, no lie. Hell, all they need to lose is Texas, and there's not another federal election that the Republicans can win.
Yep.
Texas is big enough on its own. As Breitbart News has extensively reported, the U.S. is on track to import about 15 million new foreign born voters in the next 2 decades should current legal immigration levels continue. That they're importing voters?
The Democrat party platform, or their like pretty much their ideology is so unpopular that they literally had to bring in a bunch of third worlders just to get the votes because they couldn't win on platform or win on ideology or win on stances. So they have to open the boards and bring in all these shitholers just to vote for them. And this been, they got OBJ and like these Democrats in the 60s, like Emmanuel Saylor. Oh God. They knew that their ideology was not popular, and the things that they stand on economically and socially. So they knew the only way that they could win the votes is just import the voters.
Yeah, it's not really democracy, is it?
Yeah, it's according to the left, it's democracy when everything goes their way. But if it doesn't go their way, then it's not democracy.
Those 15 million new foreign-born voters include about 8 million foreign voters who will arrive in the country through the process known as chain migration, whereby newly naturalized citizens can bring an unlimited number of foreign relatives to the U.S. And unfortunately, if I try to immigrate to the Dominican Republic, there's no such thing as chain migration. So if I immigrate there, only people I would be able to bring would be my children and my wife. That's the only people I'd sponsor. Can't sponsor my grandma, can't sponsor my mother or my sister. But it's so crazy how the U.S. system works, where you can literally import your second cousin relative, and how would they even be able to know that you're even related to them?
They don't fake IDs, and these countries don't have documentations of these people or records of them. They just take their word.
Additionally, congressional districts with large foreign-born populations have become strongholds for Democrats, giving them near electoral dominance. This was most recently evident in the 2018 midterm elections, where Orange County, California, a once conservative region of the state, elected all Democrats as the demographics of the country have shifted due to mass immigration. And that is something, because I forgot what they called Orange County, California, but it has always been Republican ever since, well, even before Ronald Reagan. It has never went Democrat before.
Because it used to be mostly farm towns. I mean, it got the name Orange County, like Florida, because it was known for their orange farms, and it was very conservative. Unfortunately, because of immigration here, I mean, you have all the mestizos and all the other third world Indios that are moving to Orange County and flooding up these areas. And then you have the coastal elites, like the ones who leave LA, the cosmopolitan elites who leave LA County to move to Orange County and whatnot. And So, for example, Mimi Wallers and Katie Porter, and I think vote fraud did play it. I think there was voter fraud too because they were like counting votes like 4 days after the election. But that's one of the issues. Like, I agree that there probably was voter fraud. I mean, especially if you're counting votes 4 or 5 days after the election. But immigration did play a part too. And like, so Mimi Wallers and Katie Porter. So this district is 60% white. Um, this part of Orange County. So it's mostly South Orange County, which is like the nice white wealthy suburban district where it's a nice white suburban district and or probably the nicest in my opinion. It's very wealthy. But since it's so segregated and it's mostly white, that these people who live in this district, this part of South Orange County, do not face the they don't face the diversity that a lot of the other Californians have to face. They're away from that. They're gated off. They're the white gated community liberals. They're away from the diversity they praise and love, and they live in their wealthy, nice, and safe area. And it's like a Brazil. And you have some of these cities like Coto de Casa that it's the whole town is gated off. It's like one giant gated community. In order to get into Coto de Casa, you have to go through a gate, which is like pretty much a security checkpoint. And it has its own parks. It has its own like tennis courts and golf course and other facilities. It's kind of like Brazil, where you have the very wealthy white neighborhoods that are gated off. It's like it's gated off, and you have to. It's like heavy security, and you have to go through a checkpoint in order to get into that wealthy white neighborhood. But around it's a total shithole. I mean, this is pretty much what California has become itself. It has become Brazil. It's probably going to be in even worse shape than Brazil because Brazil elected Bolsonaro and things may change over there. Well, California, it's at Brazil level right now. But I would not be surprised in a couple years or the next decade it becomes a Venezuela or even worse as South Africa if the white population goes from 37% down to 20%. We could see a South Africa here in California where the Bantus are like the mestizos here.
Yeah, it's kind of California's its own uniqueness and compared to the rest of the country. I mean, I remember I read that article in Return of Kings like a year or two ago. They decriminalized child prostitution, and then they decriminalized shitting in the street. It's just totally giving out free heroin. It's just crazy policies that I don't know why anybody would be supportive of. Congressional districts with the largest foreign-born populations in the country, like New York's 14th district, where the foreign population is nearing 50%, elected some of the most far-left Democrat candidates, Breitbart News noted. I'm guessing that's the district that Cortez won.
Yep, Ocasio-Cortez.
University of Maryland College Park researcher James Gimple has found in recent years that more immigrants to the U.S. inevitably means more Democrat voters, thus increasing electoral victories for the Democrat Party. In 2014, Gimple's research concluded with three major findings. Immigrants, particularly Hispanics and Asians, have policy preferences when it comes to the size and scope of government that are more closely aligned with progressives than with conservatives. As a result, surveys show a 2-to-1 party identification with Democrats over Republicans. And I don't think that was always true with Asians. That I know the Vietnamese and the Chinese used to be like majority Republican at one point,
It was
particularly
the
the ones
first
that came from Taiwan.
generation. Yeah, it was the first generation is the one that escaped communism. But the second and third generations, but more specifically the third and fourth generations, they've gone paused because they've been in they were born and raised here, so they kind of got brainwashed and NPC programmed from the universities, the educational system in general, the media, and they are into that normie, bugman, paused, and degenerate lifestyle. It's pretty much that negative assimilation where they assimilated, but it's like in the negative way, or it's in the degenerate way.
Yeah, and it's just a little bit different than like when blacks used to vote Republican because the Republican Party was much different. It was literally four Gibbs for black people. But when the Asians were voting for the Republican Party back then, it's pretty much the same Republican Party as it is now. Now, it's just it's surprising that they can just switch from majority Republican voters to majority Democrat voters.
It's a generational thing, and it's because yeah, it's the ones that were born and raised here. It's like they got so brainwashed and programmed with that, with global homo and the bug bin culture that they're pretty much irredeemable. And huge brain from the Lost Eurasians when I had him on, like in one of the live streams I had him on, he talked about this. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And a lot of Democrats, like a lot of the Asians, they like open borders because it means they could bring in more of their families. It means that their businesses from Asia comes down here and they benefit more from it, whether it's from the free trade policies, the zero tariffs, or other business deals that they made, these dirty business deals they made with politicians, and it makes them more money. So they have a motive for it. And it's tribalism. They vote within racial and tribal lines, which whites do not get for some reason. Whites are the only race where they tend to vote based on individual ideology instead of on race and tribalism, which that did change a little bit when Trump got elected, but it was mostly they lost a lot of the suburban country club Republican voters, like the upper middle class, the upper class conservatives that are all about mud tax cuts, but they got a lot of the white working class people to vote Republican. So there's that. But yeah, it's just whites are very, not all whites, but a good number of them are very individualist. And
Yeah, they're literally the only ones that vote based on the candidate, not based on the party. So he can literally get a white person who's like a lifelong Democrat would go out and vote for a Republican candidate if they like their policies.
I mean, the first ever president of Singapore literally said people vote for, uh, or people vote for politicians or a leader based on their racial group. I mean, they
Yeah, it would
vote
be
by
nice if we could.
race.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all right.
It would be nice if we go over the history of Singapore sometime on your podcast. Now, I don't really know much about it, but I do know that there was like a lot of race riots in the 1960s, and you have like three major groups like the Chinese, Indians, and the Malays. I think I said that right. I was kind of wondering how they keep that country together.
I could get huge brain on. He has a lot of insight on geopolitics in Asia and a lot of like history in Asia, so he could probably help us out with that.
Yeah, that would be nice. It just you would think any other type of. I guess they have a very iron-fisted type of government to keep that type of diversity to working. They're like I don't know, maybe they're segregated. It'd be nice to look into it. I don't really know much, but I digressed way too much. Back into the article. By increasing income inequality and adding to the low-income population, immigrants and their minor children account for one-fourth of those in poverty and one-third of the uninsured. Now, why would anybody want to import poor people? Like, wouldn't you want to have, if you were for immigration, wouldn't you want like a skilled immigration policy? Like, hey, we have a shortage of, I don't know, machinists, doctors. So let's find people who are machinists or doctors to come in. Not like let's give hey, find somebody who's living in like a metal shack, a shack made out of aluminum. Let's bring them here because that'll add to our country somehow.
Well, it benefits the people on top, the wealthy corporations and the millionaire, billionaire elites and these business owners because they get their cheap labor. Because it's all about making more money, making more profits. I mean, it's the saying, minimize the cost of labor while maximizing profits.
Yeah, and I don't like how liberals are pretty hypocritical when it comes to this. They're all about treating the workers fair, paying a living wage, but when it comes to illegal immigrants working picking lettuce and the very poor uh, labor treatment, they make the argument, well, hey, we all need our cheap lettuce and our cheap avocados. So who cares if they get paid $3.50 an hour? At least that guy Cesar Chavez in California used to be a labor leader. At least he cared about the workers he was working with and making sure they got paid a decent wage.
Stryker talked about this on the People's Square, I believe. And what's funny about Chavez was he was not for illegal immigration because he knew it would drive down the U.S. born Hispanic population, the Chicano population. So what happened, like when they had the Bracero work program, and you had people that were trying to cross into the U.S. illegally, he would I don't know if this is exactly argument or not, or exactly accurate or not, but I've read up on some things like this to see if it's exactly accurate. But I guess him and his men would literally form little militias, go to the southern border, and to pretty much like throw out anyone who tried to cross into the border illegally. Pretty much say, no, you're not coming in here, get out, or else we're going to shoot you. I mean, so they were pretty much acting as border patrol agents because they even knew that these people would drive down their wages.
Now, I mean, I know people don't like the idea of like shooting people that come across your border illegally, but you would only have to do it once. Like you do it once, people will get the message that if you cross illegally, they'll get shot, and they won't go and try to do it. It's very effective, but I don't think it would be politically possible.
My human rights.
Yeah. There is evidence that immigration may cause more Republican oriented voters to move away from areas of high immigrant settlement, leaving behind a more lopsided Democrat majority. Democrats like former San Antonio, Texas Mayor Julian Castro admit that mass immigration to the U.S. will result in Democrat dominance for generations in swing states. The Hispanic vote in Texas will continue to increase. By 2024, Democrats can win Texas, Arizona, and Florida, a big wall of 78 electoral votes. Yeah, it's massive.
I mean, he even knows the game plan. He knows it. He sees the writing on the wall.
Every year, the U.S. emits more than 1.5 million foreign nationals, with the vast majority deriving from chain migration. In 2017, the foreign-born population reached a record high of 44.5 million. By 2023, the Center for Immigration Studies estimates that the legal and illegal immigration policy of the U.S. will make up nearly 15% of the entire U.S. population. That's massive. It's actually huge. I think if I can Google that. And Southern Dingo was talking about these investor visas, which is actually brings in more people than the H-1B1 visas.
Oh
Have
yeah,
you heard about that?
yeah. And then don't forget the student visas too. And then they overstay their visa, or they get married to an American. You know, it's crazy. And that's why guys like Richard Spencer said, even if we close the border, deport all the illegal immigrants, and ended birthright citizenship, whites are still on the verge of becoming a minority population by 2045, which is true because you forget to count the visas, the visa overstays, and you said the investment visas. Is that?
Investment visas too.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
they're investment visas. You start a business, and you have to employ Americans for a year and pay them at least minimum wage. After a year, you can fire them all and then just hire your relatives, and that's how they get into the country.
Yeah, that's what a lot of
Uh,
Pajeets do when they open up their mini marts or gas stations, 7-Elevens, and Hajis do with liquor stores. And
yeah, you know, I'm surprised not more Americans in general of all races don't get kind of pissed off by that. Like, if American citizen can't open up a 7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts and be as successful as them because when they open up a business, they don't have to pay taxes for a given amount of years. And also, if they bring in their relatives, they don't have to pay payroll taxes on them. They're not U.S. citizens, so they don't have to pay the Social Security tax, don't have to pay the Medicare tax. How can you compete with that? If you want to start a small business compared to somebody who's given so many tax advantages over you.
plus the first 5 years, I think they get like tax, like I think it's some sort of tax exemption. I don't know. I think it was like some sort of tax. I think it was like a payroll tax or income tax or something. But like
Yeah,
it's
they're
or
exempt from certain taxes for
yeah,
5 years.
yeah,
They
and then
pay
what?
some taxes, but it's you still can't compete.
Yeah, and then what they would do is they would then like sell the business to another family member, to like a cousin or to their wife or another like close family member, and they take over that business, and that business is tax exempt for another 5 years. And the person who sold that business, they take over that uncle's or the other close family member's business, and that's tax exempt for 5 years.
Now, I wonder how many black people are even aware that the Indians and the Arabs that own the liquor stores, gas stations, and such, that they're taking advantage of minority loans that were created for black people.
Oh, they probably don't care. They just want their Newports and what else do they drink? Or like, what's the 40s that they drink?
Kingfisher.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, they only care about that. They really don't give a shit. You would think they would, but it's as long as it takes EBT cards, that place takes EBT cards. They cool, they game.
No, it's not Kingfisher. Damn. Colt 45, right? Yeah, that's what it is. Colt
Yeah, that's
King
it. Yeah,
Cobra, Colt 45, Old English. Now it's coming back to me.
there we go.
Yeah, it's just crazy how like the American government doesn't care about American citizens. And it just doesn't even have to be a racial thing. It's just American citizens in general. How they really don't care about them. How it's really just about getting votes, just bribing people,
It's
essentially
literally
bribing them for votes.
it's a giant shopping mall.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. It's a giant shopping mall. So I think everybody heard about the thought audit, hashtag thought audit. Go out, report your Instagram, Twitch, Twitch titty streamer, uh, webcam girl to the IRS for not paying taxes,
Oh, don't forget the
and
Snapchat Premium, those hoes.
Snapchat premiums too. And I wouldn't think so many of them don't pay taxes because after this has been going on, they've been deleting their Twitters, they've been making it private, deleting their social media accounts, their Facebook. Some of them even deleting their Snapchats. You just, I'm just shocked that so many are not paying taxes, and some of these ladies uh, might be making six figures easily. So certainly the most attractive ones would be making over six figures.
Oh yeah.
And there's this article that it's a peak. I call it peak feminism article that Shark shared with me. This is going to be really good. It's a warning about the future. I'm broke and mostly friendless, and I wasted my whole life. Hi, Polly. I feel like a ghost. I'm a 35-year-old woman, and I have nothing to show for it. My 20s and early 30s have been a twisted crisscross of moves all over the West Coast, a couple of brief stints abroad, multiple jobs in a mediocre role with no real upward track. I was also the poster child for serial monogamy. My most hopeful and longest lasting relationship, 3.5 years, whoopee, ended 2 years ago. We moved to a new town, my fourth new city, created a home together, and then nosedived into a traumatic breakup that launched me to my fifth and current city, and who knows what number job. For all these years of quick changes and rash decisions, which I once rationalized as adventurous, exploratory, living an original life, I have nothing to show for it. I have no wealth, and I'm now saddled with enough debt from all of my moves, poor decisions, and lack of career drive that I may never be able to retire. I have no career milestones and don't care for my line of work all that much anyway, but now it's my lifeline, as I only have enough savings to buy a hotel room for 2 nights. I have no family nearby, no long term relationships built on years of mutual growth and shared experiences, no children. And I've actually noticed this in my life too, because the friends I grew up with, save for like three of them, but the ones that got married, started having children, they stopped hanging out. Well, stop hanging out with the ones that aren't married and have children. They start looking for people that are in the same stage of life like themselves.
Yeah, like they
And
have playmates for their children, so they do like play dates and whatnot.
yeah, and then when their kids are having a birthday party, right? You don't get invited. But then again, what are you gonna do at a kid's birthday party? My one friend, when he used to live here, now he lives in Georgia, I believe. I think it's Atlanta. I'm not sure. When he had his son's first birthday party, and I went there, uh, me, my one friend, and my other friend went to this party. There was only two people there that had kids of their own, so his son could play with somebody. So that was it. That's uh that's something.
It's kind of sad.
Well, I make friends easily. I've left most of my friends behind in each city I've moved from, while they continue to grow deep roots, marriages, home ownership, career growth, community, families, children. I have. Well, I should also mention, out of all the three people that had kids of their own, I think only like one was in a current relationship. The other two were single moms.
Oh, that's just even worse. And I feel bad for the children. They do not deserve that whatsoever.
Yeah, the one guy with the kids was actually my other friend too.
Mm,
Yeah, he still lives in Pennsylvania, but yeah, I pretty much just stopped talking to him. So I've lost in touch. Well, he kind of stopped talking to me. But enough of my personal life. I have a few close girlfriends for which I am grateful, but life keeps getting busier and our conversations are now months apart. Most of my nights are spent alone with my cat. Cue the cliche. I used to consider myself creative, a good writer, poetic, passionate, curious. Now, after many years of demanding yet uninspiring jobs, multiple heartbreaks, move after move, financial woes, I'm quite frankly exhausted. I can barely remember to buy dish soap let alone contemplating humanity or be inspired by Aeneas Nin's diaries. Honestly, I find all this offensive because I'm jealous and don't understand how I landed this far away from myself. Also, within the past year, I've had a breast cancer scare, required surgery on my uterus due to fertility issue. And that's another thing, too. Women who don't have children have a much higher chance of getting uterine cancer.
Oh,
It's
exactly.
it's kind of maybe they're kind of designed to have children, and if they don't have it, they end up getting cancer.
It's kind of like a punishment. Like if you're not giving birth, then you are neglecting your biological duties. Therefore, this is the consequence for you not having a child or not having children.
Hey, cats actually get cancer too if they don't have kids. Like if you don't get them fixed and they don't have any kittens, they can end up getting cancer.
Oh, absolutely.
On top of that, I'm 35, and every Geno and Women's Health website this side of the Mississippi is telling me my fertility is dropping faster than a piano falling out of the sky, which is true. She's very close to getting menopause. Now I'm
Well,
looking into freezing my eggs, adding to my never-ending financial burden, in hopes of possibly making something of this haunted house and having a family someday with a no-named man.
after 35, her chances of having a children with Down syndrome's pretty high. I mean, it's
Yeah, even if she should have froze her eggs like 10 years ago.
yeah,
Even not the ones that are currently that uh they're all probably rotten now by now.
yeah, like if even she freezes her eggs at 35, that the chances of that kid getting or having Down syndrome still going to be pretty high. And like you said, that I mean, it's
Yeah,
women have
why
a
freeze
biological
rotten
clock unlike
eggs?
men. Yeah, like women have a biological clock unlike men. I mean, hell, Donald Trump could like plant a seed into Melania in his 60s and have a son like Barron. I mean, what does that tell you? It's like men could be fertile to the day they die.
Well, hell, even the day after they die, if they can like figure out a way to get the sperm out of your balls.
Oh, jeez.
Now I'm looking into freeze my eggs, add into my never. Where was I? Okay, I'm trying, Polly. I am. I'm dating. I'm working out and working hard. Listening to music I enjoy and loving my cat. Calling my mom, yet I truly feel like a ghost. No one knows who I am or where I've been. I haven't kept a friend, lover, or foe around long enough to give anyone a chance. What's the point? I don't care for my job. I'm not building toward anything. I don't have the time or money to really invest in what I care about anyway at this point. On top of that, society's telling me my value as a woman is fading fast. My wrinkles require Botox, talks, references, said poor finances. Well, it's not society telling you your value as a woman is fading fast. It's Mother Nature's telling you your value is fading fast.
And you don't have to listen to Shlomo in that that feminist movement and that feminist propaganda and shit is, pretty much Shlomo was the one that created it. But yeah, you're right. You don't have to listen to that. It's like, don't neglect your biological duty.
All the while, my manager is asking for me to finish that report by Monday. Why bother? My apathy is coming out in weird ways. I'm drinking too much, and when I do see my friends on occasion, I end up getting drunk and angry or sad or both, or pushing them away. Oh, she's becoming the stereotypical wine on, isn't she?
Yep, box wine ant, here we come. Box wine cats. I mean, you get Netflix, and next thing you know, she's got the trifecta.
And with men I date, I feel pressure to make something of the relationship too soon. Move in, get married. I have to have kids in a couple of years. Fun times. All the while, still trying to be the sex pot 25-year-old I thought I was until seemed like a moment ago. Yeah, that's another thing too. When a woman's like in her 30s, she hasn't had a kid yet. She's like every relationship she gets with, she's like rushing the guy to get married and start having kids, and that just pushes men away.
Yeah, especially men, they could just go date someone younger if they have a lot of money and status. And that, of course, that younger woman will be like, hell yeah. And they see him as like alpha. He could provide for the family. They could have a lot of children. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I could say by experience too. When I was dating this woman that was in her 40s, I was like about 24 at the time.
Ooh, cougar
And
life.
yeah, that wasn't really like dating her for a long term type of thing, you know. I was like a young guy just looking for fun, but see, being a woman in her 40s, almost a couple years away from 50. Yeah, she was a lot older than me, about double my age. She wanted to move very quickly. Like she wanted me to move in with her and everything. Within like 3.5 weeks after we've been dating. So it was something. I used to think I was the one who had figured it all figured out. Adventurous life in the city, travel in the world, making memories. Now I feel incredibly hollow and foolish. How can I make a future for myself that I can get excited about out of these wasted years? What reserves or identity can I draw from when I feel like I've accrued nothing up to this point with my choices? Haunted. Dear haunted. Art isn't something you need an outside license or a paycheck to pursue. It's a way of life. It's a way of adding up what you feel and where you've been and what you fear and what you can imagine. It's a way of seeing your life. Sorry about that. Of seeing your life through a lens that makes everything good and bad, confusing and clarifying, uplifting and depressing valuable. Shame is the opposite of art. When you live inside of your shame, everything you see is inadequate and embarrassing. A lifetime of travel and having adventures and not being tethered to long term commitments looks empty and pathetic and foolish through the lens of shame. You haven't found a partner. Your face is aging. Your body will only grow weaker. Your mind is less elastic. Your time is running out. Shame turns every emotion into the manifestation of some personality flaw, every casual choice into a giant mistake, every small blunder into a moral failure. Shame means that you're damned and you've accomplished nothing and it's all downhill from here. You need to discard some of that shame you're carrying around all the time. But even if you can't cast off your shame that quickly through the lens of art, shame becomes valuable. When you're curious about your shame instead of afraid of it, you can see the true texture of the day and the richness of the moment with all of its flaws. You can run your hands along your own self defeating edges until you get a splinter. And you can pull the splinter out and stare at it and consider it. When you face your shame with an open heart, you're on a path to art, a path to finding joy, misery, and fear and hope in the folds of your day. Even as your job yeah, just this isn't gonna happen. You're not getting any beautiful art out of this, pathetic outcome. It's a pathetic life choice you made.
She had her own art exhibit. It would either be called the Box Wine Aunt or Aunt Cindy.
Even as your job is slow and dull and pointless, even as your afternoons alone feel treacherous and daunting, you can train your eyes on the low-hanging clouds until a tiny bit of sunlight filters through. You're alive, and you will probably be alive for many decades to come. The numbers on your credit card statements can feel harrowing, but you can take that feeling and keep it company instead of letting it eat you alive. You can walk to the corner store to buy a newspaper, pull out the weekend calendar section, circle something, and make a commitment to do that one thing. You can build a new kind of existence, one that feels small and flawed and honest, but each day you accumulate a kind of treasure that doesn't disappear. Because instead of running away from the truth, you welcome it in. You don't treat what you have as pointless, you work with what you have. That doesn't mean it's easy. It's not easy for anyone, no matter how many deep roots they might have nurtured. I find it very hard, even now, to do the hard things that I need to do in order to feel good. I slip into bad habits easily without noticing. My worldview suffers for it. I know exactly what's good practices to will fuel me and make me wake up to the world around me. I know that when I'm feeling ashamed and sick inside. I have to stand outside of that feeling and examine it and treat it like a fascinating artifact, something useful, something to build on, something to treasure even. Let me be more concrete. Promoting the book is what I've been doing since my new book came out last month. It's fun and exciting. You get to travel, meet new people, but there are aspects of it that feel a little corrosive. Too much focus on the on presentation, on sales numbers, on whether or not your work matters. Right now, I'm reading a novel Less by Andrew Sean Greer. I love that the way it captures. Am I freaking? That name totally echoes to me, but I guess it doesn't echo.
Yeah.
And I love the way it captures exactly how insecure writers can be, and how much the world will magically transform around them in order to manifest that insecurity and then torture them with it. But Less is also a story about shame. When you carry around a suspicion that there is something sort of embarrassing or pathetic about you, you find ways to project that shame onto completely innocuous things. You find ways to tell yourself that everyone is laughing at you behind your back somewhere, possibly at a party where they are serving beautiful, tasty drinks, but you weren't invited. You're too old now. You're no longer exciting or important. You don't matter. You never really did. Shame creates imaginary worlds inside your head. This, well, I think we got the crux of the story. It's a pretty long article,
Yeah.
but I don't think her life story is going to end up creating this wonderful book everybody wants to read.
No, because we still have a bunch of bar thoughts who, they want to go to college and work a career job, even though it's a meaningless job where they're just counting beans all day, and they just want to go out and party and get drunk with the girls and sleep with different men every week. That's why the cock carousel exists, and or they think it's like, oh, I'm an independent woman, or I want to chase my ambitions and dreams. Therefore, I want to go to college and maybe get a graduate degree and work a white collar job and be successful.
Yeah, get it in marketing.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, a lot of them are, and yeah, or yeah, and then they work these jobs that are demanding. It puts more stress on them physically and mentally. No guy wants to date them because most guys want a woman that, well, isn't focusing on their career, or they have a job or their job is like higher tier than them. That's why Roosh on Return of Kings, one of the articles they talked about, I don't know if he wrote it or one of the guys did, but it says that CEO, do you think that male CEO is going to want to sleep or date that with or sleep with or date that female CEO? No, they're more likely to bang the secretary because they see it as like a power conflict. They see a woman whose occupation or job status or like what level they work in at the same level as them as a threat. They want someone like at a lower tier. They want someone more feminine, um, not someone that's competing in their space. Most men.
Yeah, because when you date a fellow CEO, you're going to be dating somebody that's not trying to work with you, but trying to compete against you. See, in order for a woman to be, a top CEO, she has to have masculine characteristics, masculine traits, and that just makes a woman unattractive. Who wants a masculine woman? You know, unless you're gay. Like, why would you want to
Yeah.
date something masculine? With something feminine. So I think this was a pretty good live stream, and I think this might be the one that we might actually end at 56 minutes. Uh, yeah, maybe like a couple of minutes away from an hour. But I thank you so much for coming on me on here, Shark. I appreciate it. There's no way I could have done this by myself. Just talking to myself, reading an article. It's I don't know how Dan does it on his channel.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it either. That's why I got Pill Eater or a huge brain with me, or I have a guest that join with us. But that's why I found these two articles. I knew these two articles would last us the whole 56 minutes if we just covered those two because they had a lot on it.
Yeah, he also his chat room's more thriving too. So he kind of like talks to people in the chat during his live stream. At most, I have like 5 in mine. But let's see. We'll be back this Saturday for the Minority Report. It's going to be on my channel this Saturday. Angry Shark's going to be there. Dan Man, Zero Skid Show, the regular crew that comes on in the Minority Report, and we're going to have some guests like usual. I believe Johnny Benitez might be coming on, and who were the other people?
It was Loki, Evola, and Riestred or Reistrad. I forgot how you pronounce it, but people will know
Yes,
what I'm
he
talking
makes
about.
the clips of her show and of the heel turn and kill stream. But pretty nice. I like his content of cutting other people's content.
Well, it's
That
it's
makes
kind of good because it's like interesting things that like stick out in their live streams and people could see. It's like kind of like a highlight thing.
yes, the highlights. So thank you guys for listening to this hour has 56 minutes. Hope you guys enjoy your Christmas and your New Year's. And hopefully I will see you before then. But I've been pretty busy at work for the holidays. As you can tell, working overtime, working 2 jobs. But see you guys next time. Bye.
See ya.